When you're at your crib, big chillin', practice your radio calls in the same sequence that you will be practicing them when you're actually flying. For example, the first radio call that you will more than likely make will be the taxi radio call when you're going from where your aircraft is stationed to, of course, taxiing to the active runway. Practice what you think that radio call would sound like. Say that radio call, what you would probably hear back from air traffic control. Then your next one, after you do your run up, your next radio call will more than likely be your clearance for takeoff. Practice that radio call in sequence, and then go to the next one, which will probably be some form of an approach call, and then do the same thing on your return approach, on your landing radio call, and then of course you're taxiing back to your hangar. So do this in the same sequence that you would be if you are flying, but you're doing it on the ground. You're doing it in the comfort of your home. This, you can take it nice and slow. You can critique yourself, and it's going to get you set up in a nice way when you're practicing this. Again, the more you can practice on the ground, the better you're going to be in the sky. So this is the number one tip and trick, game changing, baby, for you to become better at radio comms and for them to become less intimidating to you. Practice them on the ground in sequence, the same sequence that you will be using them while flying. Tip numero dos. You want to make sure you're practicing your radio calls out loud. It's one thing to go through a sequence of events inside of your mind. It's a whole nother thing when it comes to learning something to do it and say it out loud. It really improves your learning ability. So don't be afraid to do it. Don't think you may sound silly by saying these radio calls out loud and not just going through them in your mind. It's going to help you remember them a lot more, and it's going to help you get through it. You can even make this fun by using the recording device on your phone. Every phone has some sort of form of a recording device. Set it up, and after you hit record, and then practice your radio calls, and then play it back to yourself, because you may or may not sound the way you think you sound when you're saying it in your mind. That's why you want to say it out loud. Pay attention to your cadence. Pay attention to, is everything crisp and clear where you can really hear it, or are words being jumbled up when maybe you didn't think that way when it was in your mind? This is why it's very important for you to practice out loud. Record yourself by using your phone nice and free, and play it back and listen to yourself as you're making those radio calls in sequence. So you're going to take the tip from numero uno and combine it with numero dos, and you're going to be good. Hey, numero tres for some of the best tips and tricks. You want to look into recording yourself in flight and being able to play back that video and audio. Coordinate with your instructor and get the tools that you need and the resources that you need to be able to record your flight lessons. This is a very valuable resource and tool to you if you use the information, the video, and the audio correctly. So just recording it, just to be recording it, that's not going to do anything for you. But if you make it a point to play back the video of your flight lesson, to play back the audio of your flight lesson, this can be an invaluable tool to you. Think about it along these lines. Think about it like you're a professional athlete. Professional athletes watch film. They watch film of the game and they critique their performance. And then they use that critique of their performance to improve themselves for the following week's game. This is exactly what you should be doing, because you easily can record a lot of your flight lesson with the tools and resources that we have at our disposal. And you should be using it to critique your performance. Think about it, maybe on your flight lesson, you may have missed a radio call and your flight instructor had to chime in and catch that radio call. You can play that back when you get home and listen to, what did you miss inside of that radio call? Were you distracted, or did you just not hear the words come clearly? Can you hear them now that you're playing it back on the video? Do you hear exactly what was being said to you? This is a great tool for you. You can not only use it with the video, with understanding your positioning with flight maneuvers and the mechanics of the controls, you can also use it to help yourself better yourself with the radio calls and understand all the radio calls that are being given to you, and how did you sound when you were confirming information and you were repeating things back. How did you sound on the radios based on the video and the quality that you're hearing? This is an invaluable tool to be able to record the video and audio of your flight lessons if possible. Tips and tricks number 4, numero cuatro. Now we're about to get into some free resources. You know what I'm gonna lead with here, the LiveATC app. You need that. Get that on your phone as soon as possible. You can also check it out on your desktop, on your laptop. Pop up that, of course, liveatc.net, and punch in your home airport of the airport that you fly out of. Make it a point to listen to that just for a little bit each and every day, and watch how quickly you become acclimated to a lot of the language that's going across the airways. This is why you want to use this information. The best way to not only get it, because once you get it, all you have is an app on your phone. But that app is useless if you don't know how to use it. So here's one of the best ways to use the app. Make it a point. Dedicate about 15 minutes each and every day. You can do this wherever you have, whether it's in the morning, whether it's on your commute, you're standing in line somewhere, but dedicate at least 15 minutes each and every day to log into the app, punch in your home airport, and listen to Tower at your home airport. A lot of the clearances that are being given, a lot of the back and forth between the pilot and air traffic control, different pilots flying through. This can help you really become acclimated very quickly. Think about it the same way if you were to listen to your favorite album, that little baby, or you listening to something that sounds really good, and you start listening to it over and over and over again. What's going to start to happen? You're going to start to pick up on a lot of words and phrases. Everything is going to start to become automatic to you without you even thinking about it. This is the exact same thing that's going to happen if you make it a point to listen to Tower regularly. You can't fly every day, maybe in certain circumstances, but you can listen to that app every day, and that's going to help you get even better and better at radio comms. Radio comms, getting better, is all about frequency, being able to practice. But you can't practice all the time because that can be very expensive because you can't fly every day. But you can listen to that app every day, and that can make you more comfortable, and that can make you better at radio comms. LiveATC app, you need that. Numero cinco, another free app for you, baby. You know this is the channel that you can come to for free and fun ways to learn everything that you need to know for you to become a pilot. That second free app you want to look into downloading is called Plain English. Plain English. Get that app on your phone. There's a free version of that, which also does something very similar. But instead of just listening in, it gives you an opportunity to use the microphone on your phone as a nice functionality and feature, and you can repeat back what you may see. They may give you something like a heading on the phone screen, and then you have to repeat, what heading do you see? And make it sound good for the app, just the way you want it to sound good when you're speaking on radio comms. So this is a nice interactive kind of app, a little bit different from ATC, where you're just the LiveATC app where you're just listening to it. This one here is more interactive, so it's giving you an opportunity to flex those muscles and flex those skills when speaking on the radio. Again, free version of the app, Plain English. You need that. The Plain English app and the LiveATC app. Two invaluable resources that you can have on your phone, on you at all times, and anytime you get a little bit of downtime, you can pop them open, and then hey, boom, you in that thing. Numero seis, number 6 on the list for some of the best tips and tricks, game changing, baby, to help you improve your radio comms and make everything less intimidating. Number 6 is another free tip. You want to download the Pilot Control Glossary. You want to Google Pilot Controller Glossary and then download that document. That document is basically what it just states. It's a glossary of terms and phrases that pilots and controllers use when they're communicating back and forth with each other. And the reason why this is very invaluable to you, think about if you would have ever learned a foreign language. Or for those of you who are out there who are already bilingual, think about the beginning stages of when you learn that foreign language. More than likely, obviously, you weren't speaking fluent sentences in the beginning. You were just simply learning words and phrases, maybe even some dirty words and phrases that were just fun to learn. Same kind of sequence of events is going to happen when you learn this pilot language to be able to communicate over the radios effectively. This glossary that you're getting ready to download, the Pilot and Controller Glossary, is going to give you a laundry list of terms and phrases that are frequently used in the communication between pilots and controllers. Familiarize yourself with these terms and phrases, particularly the ones that you may see yourself using very frequently in the beginning stages on a frequent basis. Things like affirm or negative or Roger or Wilco or whatever it may be. Use these terms and use them effectively and start working them into your natural vernacular, and that's going to help you as a pilot when you begin to grow. The Pilot Controller Glossary, baby. Download that thing, Google that thing, have it at the ready, learn those terms and phrases, have fun with it. Hey, did somebody say learning a foreign language? Numero 7. Number 7 on the list. You want to make sure you practice your radio comms both on the ground, but you can also practice in the sky too. You just have to pick certain pockets of when you can practice. And this is how this can go down. The obvious is number 1. You want to be practicing as much on the ground as possible. The more you practice on the ground, the better you can be in the sky. And the beautiful thing about practicing on the ground, you don't have to worry about the hassle of flying the airplane. Aviate, navigate, communicate. Look where the communicate comes in that sequence of events at the end. Because the most important thing is aviate, then navigate, then communicate. So if you can just eliminate the aviate and navigate and put that to the side right now and practice that communication on the grounds, the better you can be in the sky. So do that first. Make it a habit to practice that on the ground as much as possible. But here's how you can also practice it in the sky. I'll give you an example. Let's just say you're in cruise flight and everything is cool. You got the checklist going, you're cruising, you're looking at your instruments, everything is beautiful. And you're getting ready, anticipating that you're about to enter a certain airspace. You haven't made the radio call just yet because maybe you're a little bit far away from it. You can begin practicing in your head and even out loud in the aircraft to yourself. It's just you and your instructor there. You can begin practicing. What would you say on the radio calls when we get up ahead and it's time to make the actual approach call? That's a way for you to practice in the sky as well, picking those little pockets. You know you're getting ready to enter airspace where you're getting ready to come to a landing. What kind of call are you going to make? What are you going to say? And then more than likely, what is going to be said back to you? When you find these little dead spaces where you can start practicing in the sky as well, you can combine that with a lot of the groundwork that you're practicing on the ground. Again, before you open up comms, before you push that button to transmit, think about what you're going to say. That's your form of practicing in the sky before you say it. You don't have to just be so quick to jump on the radios and make calls. Anticipate, stay ahead of the aircraft, and give yourself the allotted amount of time to run through the call in your mind and even say it out loud without transmitting first and then transmit that. Boom. Numero 8, some of the best tips and tricks for you. You want to make sure you slow down. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast when communicating on the radios. Don't be so jittery to the point where you feel like everyone else is talking fast. The air traffic controller is talking fast, so I have to talk fast too. You do not. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. You want to focus more importantly on being clear and being concise. If you do those two, practice the 2 C's, clear and concise. If you're clear and concise, the speed is going to come over time. So that's all you want to focus on in the very beginning. Getting your form right if you were playing sports. You don't want to work on the speed of anything. That you want to get the form right. The form of your jump shot. The form of your golf swing. The form of throwing a pitch. You want the form first. If you got the form down, then over time, the speed and all that is going to come with time. Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. And also too, when you're opening up communication, think about this. It's almost like a dance. And in dance, there's always a lead and there's a follow. If you're leading at a certain cadence, more than likely, the controller is going to follow your cadence when repeating information back to you. So you want to make sure you're going at a nice pace yourself. That way, the controller is just going to follow your rhythmic pace as you two are communicating back and forth. It's like a lead and follow of a dance. But if you jump in very jittery and just spilling over yourself with words, then of course this is what they do, baby. They're just going to naturally go with the flow and be fast as well. Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. Tip number 9, because I'm so fine. Hey, one time for your mind, baby. Here's that number 9. I'm going to give you a visual aid for this one. Be concise. If it can be said, in 4 words, do not use 8. If you can do it in 4, don't use 8. That's what you need to remember. Be as concise as possible in all of your communication. If you can be effective with less words, do so. So we already know from the previous example and from the previous tip that slow is smooth, smooth is fast. With this tip, number 9, you want to remember that less is more. Tip number 10 is some of the best tricks to improve radio comms and not have them be so intimidating. Game-changing advice, baby. Hey, you want to make sure on number 10, say everything in one transmission and don't piecemeal things together to try and add on later. Particularly, for example, you open up transmission, you communicate what you want to communicate, and then you stop, and then you forgot, oh, I forgot to say this piece of information, and you try to add it on, and then trump it and add it on. You're just stepping over others, and you're stepping over the controller trying to communicate back to you. So say everything that you need to say in one transmission. That's why you want to follow that. Be concise, and slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And if you find yourself having to, oh, you forgot some information, then when you get ready to transmit again, say the whole thing back over nice and clear, because they're just going to ask you to repeat it anyway in sequence for the tape, baby. So make sure you just say everything in one nice clean transmission instead of just trying to tack on little dribbles and pieces of information here and there. Number 11 pertains to your safety. If you did not clearly hear something that was said to you, please just say it again, speak slower. Nice and simple. You may feel like you're being annoying by saying that, but what would you rather be? Annoying and still alive? Or in danger because you ended up doing something that maybe you shouldn't have done or you were asked not to do, but you did not hear it clearly and you didn't acknowledge it. You don't want to put yourself and others in danger here. Hey, just ask them to say it again and speak slower. And in most cases, they're going to be much more happy to oblige and give you that piece of information again so you can digest that and have the right clearance and guidance and direction that you need in the sky. This is more of a safety issue and understanding how to put your pride and ego to the side a little bit. Hey, I know, baby, you're a pilot. You want to be a pilot, swinging and banging that thing. Hey, you know how you can tell someone's a pilot? They're going to tell you that they're a pilot one time for your mind. But you got to put that to the side a little bit for this instant right here so you can stay alive. And one of the ways you stay alive is if you didn't hear something, just ask them to say it again, speak slower. Tip number 12, another safety issue, and it goes in line and in conjunction with number 11. Never be afraid to ask questions and make requests when communicating on the radios. So never feel as if you can't ask the question, especially if that's the question that's going to help you navigate and aviate the airplane to where you need to be. So make sure that you're always making the appropriate requests that you need to get the information that you need from air traffic control. Again, they'll be more than happy to assist and help you. That's what they are there for, to be not only keep the sky safe, but also to, of course, make you feel safe as a pilot as well. So you got to do your part, but not being afraid to make requests, not being afraid to ask questions, not being afraid to say, can you please say again, speak slower. That's your part, and then they'll oblige with their part on their end, and everyone can remain safe in the sky. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Lucky number 13 are some of the best tips and tricks to help you make radio comms less intimidating. Make sure that you give the air traffic controller useful pieces of information, like saying, hey, you're a student pilot, if you are one. That is very useful information for an air traffic controller, because they can make sure when you're in the sky, they can give you the appropriate amount of spacing, especially if they have an opportunity to. They can put you in situations where you'll be more likely to succeed versus them just going to you and asking you to do something that they are unaware that you're unable to do. But they can know that off the bat. If your first communication, your initial communication, you're letting them know that you're a student pilot. This is useful information, and it's something that you should lead with when you're on radios so you can be put in the best position possible to succeed. Number 14 is some of the best tips and tricks. Hey, you want to make sure that you're never afraid to say unable. Whenever you're in the sky and you're asked to do something that is beyond your abilities, do not be afraid to say unable. All that's going to happen is you're going to be redirected to do something different. So make sure that you just are aware and have that strong sense of self-awareness. You know what your abilities are and you don't go and extend far beyond them. And if you're asked to do something that you're unable to do, an example of this would be something as simple. Let's just say you're in the traffic pattern and then you may be asked to do a short approach, but you're unable to do a short approach and you don't maybe know how to do a short approach. That is okay. Just say unable. And you will probably just be redirected to do something different. Maybe extend the downwind or something else. This is all perfectly fine, but do not attempt to do something that you know is beyond your abilities. Never be afraid to say unable. Number 15, another term that you should never be afraid to say is unfamiliar. If you're flying into a new area, maybe it's a new airport and you're unfamiliar with that airport, you never be afraid to let air traffic control that you are unfamiliar, because they can possibly give you a little bit more of additional guidance. They're just going to assume that maybe you've been there before if you don't say anything. But if you make it clear that you're unfamiliar with that and they have the opportunity to, they can give you a little bit of an additional information that can help you along your way. See how being a pilot and being pilot in command is a lot like being successful in life. A lot of these tips that we're talking about right now are things that you should naturally be doing in your life. Never being afraid to ask questions. Never being afraid to say that you're unable to do something. Never being afraid to say that you're unfamiliar with something. Does any of this ring a bell about leadership, about just life, and just any kind of personal development? It's all the same, baby. That's why this channel is called Leadership Mindset. One time for your mind. Hey. Number 16, Sweet 16. Hey, one time for your mind. On this one here, it's about if you make a mistake while you're in the middle of transmitting a radio comm. What you can do, you can say the word correction and then make that correction, continue to talk and make that correction as long as you're doing this in one transmission. It may sound something like this. Cleared to land on 28 left. Correction. Cleared to land on 28 right. You never took your finger off the transmitting button. You were transmitting the whole time, but while you were speaking, you realized that you made an error in saying that it was 28 left when you meant to say 28 right. All you did, while in mid-speech, say correction, 28 right. A. Number 17 is a great one that you should always be aware of. Make sure that you're paying attention onto the radios, not just to the calls that are directly to you, but to others around you as well. This is going to give you great situational awareness. And it can be the simplest, smallest little thing to something a little bit more complicated. A simple example would be, let's just say you're chilling in the traffic pattern and then you notice that the aircraft that's ahead of you has been asked to extend the downwind. Then more than likely, based on that situation, as you're getting ready to get a beam to the numbers, what do you think that they're possibly going to tell you to do? Just based off the situation as to what they told the aircraft ahead of you. This is why you want to be paying attention to more than just your own calls. Kind of understanding where other people are in certain situations and what they're being asked to do, because what you've been going to be asked to do may be something obviously in the same scenario or a very sequence of events that's happening at that very moment. So this gives you great situational awareness. Our ears tend to perk up when we hear our own tail numbers, which is great. But make sure you're always being mindful of what's happening around. Okay, this aircraft over here, this one's that's a non-factor, but still understand exactly what he just told to do. They're getting ready to do this. They're getting ready to do that. Okay, I only have to worry about these two right here. That kind of situational awareness is going to really help you in your pilot journey. And it's one of the things that you can understand on radio comms. And it also gives you an idea and a great deal of detail for you to become better at radio comms, because you're not just dealing with the two-way communication between you and air traffic controller. You're listening and observing others is a great way to learn the communication between other pilots in air traffic control, and you can kind of observe their communication and what's being said and not said on the radios. Hey. Number 18 deals a little bit with complacency. Make it a point throughout your training, and even after you've already secured your pilot's license and you're doing other things, make it a point to practice in different airspaces at different airports. Because if you stay in the same situations and you're hearing a lot of the same voices and giving a lot of the same instructions in the area, you can get kind of complacent on radios. If you really want to stretch yourself, if you really want to always be growing, put yourselves in different environments, different things going on, different airports. So look at your area in terms of where you usually train and where you usually practice, and can you put yourself in certain situations that's going to help you grow on radio comms. Things may be done a little bit differently at one airport than they're done at another. Things may be said at a different pace, at a different cadence. All sorts of things. You got to go through the whole uncontrolled airport versus one that's more tower. These kinds of things gives you a different skill set and help you grow versus you always dealing with the same airspace, the same airport, and the same scenarios. So always change things up. It's like shocking your muscles when you're getting them gains in the gym, baby. Hey, progressive overload one time. Number 19, there's no need to pester ATC for a clearance or descent instructions or anything of that nature, because it's not going to make it happen any faster. If you've already made the call and they've made it that they've acknowledged you, that they understand that you're in the queue, just leave it as is. Pestering them about anything is not going to make it happen faster. Could be 50 million legitimate reasons why they haven't given you instructions just yet. So make it a point to develop these kinds of relationships, particularly at your home base, in the airports you fly in and out of regularly, establishing those kinds of great relationships with air traffic control. They're there to help you and to be as helpful as possible. So you want to have that positive kind of mindset when going into these kind of situations. No one's there to make you a worse pilot. They're there to make you a better pilot and keep you safe in the sky. And lastly, number 20 are some of the best tips and tricks, game-changing advice that can help radio comms become less intimidating. This one is very nice and simple. Everyone makes mistakes, not only including you, me, all pilots, but also too air traffic control. And you need to be mindful of this, that we're all human and we all make mistakes on the radios. And just because you've been given a certain instruction, you're still pilot in command. So make sure you keep your situational awareness at an all-time high, and you don't just follow through with an instruction without peeping the situation and having a sense of awareness before acting on it. Basic, simple example. Let's just say you've been cleared to take off on the runway, but you notice when you look before you get into the runway that there's someone barreling down on final. It will be in your best interest to make the call to air traffic control and let them know that you see someone barreling down on final and that you think it's best not to take off at this time. You could have been just given that clearance by mistake or accident. Mistakes happen all the time on both sides. So make sure, just because you've been given something, you're still checking. You're not just following an instruction and not even looking, not even checking. Always having situational awareness, always remaining pilot in command at all times as you communicate back and forth. Given instructions for runway clearances or any other type of thing, always make it clear that, hey, mistakes happen. Keep your situational awareness at an all-time high, because that can help save your life. Another simple example, let's just say you were given instruction and you were asked to change your course heading for just temporarily while you're going to make room for another situation that's happening nearby. So you do just that, and then a little bit of time goes by, beep bop, beep bop, beep bop, and maybe a little bit more time goes by, beep bop, beep bop, beep bop. You listening to tunes, the next thing you know, no one has checked in with you to ask you to get back on resume your original heading. So all of a sudden, you begin to check in with air traffic control, and then they tell you and prompt you, of course, to go back to resume your original old navigation. That can be a situation where you may have forgotten about in that particular time just by mistake. But it's one of those things where obviously you want to check in where you deem appropriate, where enough time has went by and you haven't heard any further instructions. Just giving you examples of how simple little mistakes, because we are all human, can and do happen in the sky. Remember at all times, you are pilot in command, and you want to keep your situational awareness at an all-time high and work in conjunction and collaboration with ATC to keep yourself and everyone around you safe. If you just remember that simple principle, you can make radio comms very easy and way less intimidating for you as you're going through the learning process. These are 20 tips and tricks that can make radio comms less intimidating. Game-changing advice. One time, subscribe to this channel.